Hello everyone. I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 4 of the series. Chapter 55. I refuse to accept this. Yu-Jianli, a genius born with sword intent, a direct disciple of one of the top sects, the Myriad Sword Sect, the youngest leader in the sect's history. She was ranked second on the Heavenly Genius rankings. It wasn't because she was weaker than first place, but because she rarely fought with anyone, making it hard to guess her strength. And Lai Ran even had more titles than her. And I changed the name from Genius Rankings to Heavenly Genius Rankings for more consistency with the CN version. The Devil Saint, the reincarnation of a great emperor, a peerless genius with a Tao tattoo, a future demon owl giant who will trample on the entire vast lands. Due to his background in the Devil Sect, he wasn't listed on the Heavenly Genius Rankings. Many people guessed that Lai Ran would definitely be on par with the first place. However, only those who had come into contact with him would know that he was an existence that surpassed all geniuses. A genius amongst geniuses. It was precisely these two most outstanding geniuses of the vast lands that were firmly pressed onto the stone steps, and could not even lift their heads. Yu-Jianli's face was pale. Her sweat dripped down the stairs, as expected of an ancient emperor's inheritance. Even after thousands of years, this path is still irresistible. She had a strong premonition. Although those steps were close to her, it was like a deep abyss. If she took another step forward, she might die. Don't you think this challenge is too difficult? Lai Ran suddenly said. And Yu-Jianli was stunned. Actually, she felt the same. If it was just for the purpose of the trial, there was no need to put so much pressure on them. You mean, the goal of this trial is not to see who can reach the top, but to let us crawl under his feet to show off his strength and authority. Yu-Jianli suddenly understood. I indeed had this feeling according to your words. He didn't plan to let us reach the top in the first place. Lai Ran nodded. It's the same as the last 2 rounds. There's no need to reach the top. The 3 who climbed the highest should be able to directly advance. I see. Yu-Jianli heaved a sigh of relief. Lai Ran glanced at her. You seem quite happy. Yu-Jianli frowned and asked, what do you mean by that? Being held down like an animal and worshipping this damned palace. Shouldn't you feel humiliated? Lai Ran said lightly. A trace of anger flashed in Yu-Jianli's eyes as well, but she immediately said in a dispirited tone, this is the rule set down by the ancient emperor. It's only natural that we should follow it. We're talking about an ancient emperor right here. It was only normal to feel respect and fear towards this existence. They were only at the Golden Core realm. They already took pride in reaching this realm. We should bullshit. The veins on Lai Ran's neck bulged as he stood up under the immense pressure. The joints in his body exploded. But his expression was still calm. His figure was as straight as a spear. Don't be rash, Yu-Jianli cried out in shock. Our goal is to enter the final trial. There's no need for us to try to be brave and kill ourselves. She wasn't worried about him. However, this round was so difficult. How terrifying would the ultimate test be? If Lai Ran wasn't present in the next trial, she wouldn't have the confidence to complete it. Lai Ran looked at the palace in front of him. His voice was cold and malevolent. He made us kneel here, but he was sitting high above the clouds like he was looking down at an ant. What are you doing? Yu-Jianli's pupils contracted. Golden light flickered on Lai Ran's body. A mysterious ancient seal slowly appeared, like a tattoo engraved on his skin. This was the first time he had used the full power of the heaven seizing technique. I'm going to personally walk into the palace to see if this guy really has 3 heads and 6 arms. Lai Ran took the first step. With a deafening explosion, the clouds were covered with lightning and thunder. It was as if the entire world was pressing down on Lai Ran. Yu-Jianli immediately felt her body lighten. She knew that the laws were doing their best to stop Lai Ran, so they no longer cared about. However, she did not take the opportunity to reach the top. Instead, she stared at that back in a daze. Blood oozed out of Lai Ran's ears. But his figure was still as tall as a spear. He lifted his leg and then climbed up again. Kacha! A streak of divine lightning struck down, but it was absorbed by the mysterious ancient seal on his body. If the divine lightning wasn't good enough, it would be replaced by flames, hurricanes, ice spears, and even turned into a weapon that slashed at him. The world's laws tried to stop Lai Ran. Yu giantly covered her mouth. He was right. The goal of this round of trials was not to let them reach the top, but to make them submit. Lai Ran attacked with his spear. His lips curled into a crazed smile. Seize the heavens and destroy the heavenly Taos. Replace 10,000 techniques with my technique, and the heavens will with my will. My Tao heart is firm. My will is immovable. How could you make me submit? The golden light on Lai Ran's body began to shine brightly as he stood on the last step against the barrage of attacks. The world instantly fell silent. All the pressure vanished, and the surging Tao laws receded like a tide. Lai Ran smiled smugly. FCKU aren't you just? Before he could finish his sentence, he limped, even though this stairway had been weakened after thousands of years. It was not something that a golden core realm cultivator could contend against. At this moment, his meridians were dried up, and his Kai source was completely exhausted. Lai Ran's eyes darkened. He couldn't stand still, and was about to fall into the clouds. At this moment, a slender hand firmly supported his back and straightened his body. Lai Ran looked at her in astonishment. Yu giantly turned her head and said in a low voice, "Stand firm. Don't let that guy see you as a joke." Chapter 56 Yu Giantly's Decision. Chapter 56 Yu Giantly's Decision. What a strange person. Yu Giantly looked at Lai Ran with a complicated expression. According to her belief, most cultivators from the devil sect were usually interested in profit, and they would do anything to achieve their goal. However, Lai Ran was different. To protect his dignity, he'd rather fight against the emperor's will. This sort of death-seeking approach truly didn't seem to be the work of a devil. Yu Giantly couldn't help but feel admiration for his courage. She didn't know why, but she didn't want to see him fall at the very last moment. She couldn't help but reach out to support him. However, when he recalled that Lai Ran had snatched her immortal material and even teased her, she immediately gritted her teeth. No matter how much backbone you have, you won't be able to change the fact that you're a lowlife. Lai Ran looked at the palace, a trace of fear flashing in his eyes. I didn't expect the stairway to be so strong. If it wasn't for the strange and powerful heaven-seizing cultivation technique, I probably wouldn't have been able to ascend. The heaven-seizing cultivation technique gave you the ability to automatically cultivate. But if he were to use the technique, it had the ability to swallow 10,000 techniques. The divine lightning that was summoned was completely absorbed by the mysterious ancient seal on his body. However, even though this move was strong, it was not invincible. The stronger the opponent's attack, the faster the Kai consumption. He felt his empty dantian, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Yu Giantly stood beside him and looked at him with amusement. Didn't you want to defy the heavens and question the immortal emperor? Why can't you hold on anymore? Lai Ran glanced at her. That's better than lying on the ground and being a dog. Yu Giantly was enraged. Who are you talking about? Whoever lies on the ground is a dog. If I hadn't helped you earlier, you would have already fallen. Do you have any conscience? You wanted to talk about conscience with someone from a devil sect? Are you stupid? The two of them glared at each other angrily. Lai Ran was the first to give in. Alright, I'm just teasing you. Thank you for what you did. If Yu Giantly had attacked, she would have had a chance to eliminate him, or even heavily injure him. However, not only did she not do that, she even reached out to support him. It was indeed beyond Lai Ran's expectations. TCH, who wants your thanks? Yu Giantly snorted disdainfully, but her lips slightly curved up. Lai Ran found a flat ground and sat down. This is your only chance to kill me. Are you sure you want attack? Yu Giantly sneered. Who said I wouldn't make a move? I'll kill you right after you recover your Kai with my sword. Oh, good luck then. Lai Ran took out a handful of pills, sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. Yu Giantly was confused. You really think I don't dare to kill you? She drew her sword and gestured in front of Lai Ran for a long time. However, he didn't react. He didn't even move his eyelashes. TCH. How boring! Yu Jianli angrily withdrew her sword. Suddenly, her eyes froze. She saw that Lai Ren's clothes were already in tatters. His muscular body was exposed, and his lines were visible. Her face blushed and she hastily turned around. Do not look at this indecency. Do not look at this indecency. Wait, that's not right. He's already looked at me. Why can't I look at him? Yu Jianli angrily turned around and looked righteously. Lai Ran's figure was perfect. All the muscles in his body were bulging, containing a powerful explosive force. However, the lines were clear and smooth. Not even the slightest bit of bloat was found. This was a perfect interpretation of what it meant to have the back of a tiger and a waist like a wolf. Yu Jianli's face turned redder and redder. In the end, her ears were about to release smoke. Does it look beautiful? Lai Ran suddenly opened his eyes and asked. Good papa. It's ugly. Yu Jianli seemed to have been caught red-handed and fled into the distance. Hiding from afar, she patted her chest and tried to calm her intense heartbeat. He really is a demon from the devil sect. He doesn't have the least bit of shame. Because Lai Ran had broken through the world laws. The pressure had completely disappeared. The rest realized that and crazily climbed upwards. Song Kingsong was the first to ascend the mountain. As he stepped onto the ground, the staircase immediately disappeared. The others cried out in alarm as they fell, being sent out of the secret realm midair. Who great? I've advanced. Song Kingsong gasped for breath. His eyes filled with ecstasy. He looked around and noticed Lai Ran, who was meditating not far away. The scene of Lai Ran resisting the heavenly lightning was for his eyes to see. His heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. This demon was too strong to the point of despair. In the end, the inheritance can only be obtained by one person. If he recovers, I will definitely be eliminated. Right now, his cultivation is half crippled. This is my only chance. Song Kingsong gripped his flying sword tightly and slowly walked towards Lai Ran. His expression gradually darkened. A streak of swordlight flashed and a cut appeared in the ground in front of him. Song Kingsong raised his head and saw Yu Jianli holding her sword with a cold expression. Scram. Chapter 57 Basic Role of a Toolman. Song Kingsong frowned. Yu Jianli. What do you mean by this? You don't understand. Yu Jianli's thumb gently pushed the sheath, and her sword intent surged out. Do you need me to explain it to you? Song Kingsong's hair stood on end. He couldn't help but take a step back. This woman was not someone to be trifled with. What do you mean by that? As a disciple of the righteous path, do you want to protect this devil? He asked. Righteous path, Yu Jianli said disdainfully. What you did inside the secret realm is worthy of these two words. Killing his companions, seizing other spirit herbs, sneak attack on the staircase. Yu Jianli hated him to the extreme. Song Kingsong's expression turned to embarrassment. However, he forcefully continued, even if you look down on me, this inheritance can only be obtained by one person. Could it be that you wish to hand it over to him if we don't kill Lai Ran? We won't have a chance. Yu Jianli remained unmoved. She sneered. Don't tell me you think that if Lai Ran has been eliminated, you will have a chance. He was indeed no match for Yu Jianli, but that was better than facing Lai Ran. That fellow was simply too terrifying. The trial is getting harder and harder. Since he wanted to keep 3 of us, he naturally had his reasons. Before we know what the final trial is, Lai Ran could not be eliminated. Yu Jianli had a premonition that the final trial would be extremely difficult. If Lai Ran wasn't here, she wouldn't have any confidence in passing. When the trial is over, I will kill him myself, Yu Jianli said hatefully. Song Kingsong scratched his head and felt that something was wrong. It seemed as if these two were not enemies, but a young couple arguing. Lai Ran changed his clothes and stood in front of the scarlet door that was more than 10 meters tall. He raised his head and looked up at the huge signboard. The 2 words on the signboard were filled with strength, and they contained the principles of the Grand Tao. With just a single glance, one soul was sent into turmoil. Heaven Palace Sect. The tone of the writing is not small. Lai Ran shook his head. He really thinks of himself as the Jade Emperor. TLN Jade Emperor is considered to be the ruler of heaven. So Lai Ran was probably implying that the one who wrote the board thinks of himself as the best. Yu Jianli walked to his side, her eyes flashing with surprise. At this moment, Lai Ran's Kai was surging and his vitality was as strong as a dragon. Clearly, he had recovered to his peak. Not even the time for an incense stick to burn has passed, so fast. Yu Jianli sighed in her heart. What a monster. Little did she know that this secret realm with abundant Kai was simply the best nourishment for his heavenly arts. Not only did Lai Ran's recovery speed become faster, but even his cultivation was also accelerated. He looked at Song Qingsong and grinned. Song Qingsong's heart trembled. He hastily lowered his head and broke out in cold sweat. He didn't know what had just happened. The end of the third trial. 3 people advanced. The final trial begins now. As soon as the words in the air dissipated, the magnificent palace slowly opened. Looking over, the only thing present was deep darkness. It was impossible to see anything. Let's go. Lai Ran directly walked inside. The 2 hurriedly followed. Inside was a corridor, surrounded by darkness that could not be dispelled. Apart from the candlelight on both sides, there was no light. The 3 walked along the corridor for a long time before finally reaching the end. A magnificent palace was before them. The atmosphere was solemn and the bright pillar was pristine. On the scarlet pillar lies an engraved golden dragon that could enchant one's soul. On the ceiling was a large pearl that illuminated the entire space. However, this was not the main focus. The 3 stared blankly at the huge coffin in front of them. What was going on? No throne, nor an immortal emperor. Only a coffin. Could it be that this is not an immortal emperor's bedchamber, but an imperial mausoleum? Song Qingsong was confused. Lai Ran and Yu Jianli looked at each other. They felt that something was wrong. This coffin was of the immortal emperor. To bury himself in the bedchamber was simply too discreet. Yu Jianli asked, why hasn't the trial content been released yet? After some thought, Lai Ran said to Song Qingsong, go. Open the coffin. Song Qingsong was startled, and he shook his head like a rattle drum. This place is filled with strangeness. I dare not go. If you don't open the coffin lid, you'll open your head. Choose for yourself. Lai Ran coldly said. He had repeatedly let this guy go, waiting for this moment. As a toolman, one should understand their own role. Song Qingsong shuddered as he turned to Yu Jianli. However, the other party held her sword in silence. Clearly, she had tacitly agreed to this outcome. Fine. I'll go. Song Qingsong was helpless. He could only grit his teeth and walk to the black coffin. He grabbed the coffin board and pushed it hard. A crack appeared in the coffin as the black mist came out. At the same time, words appeared in the air. The final trial initiated. As expected, as long as you can open the coffin, the trial will start. However, just immediately after, the 3 were stunned. The text in the air. First trial, eliminate the demon's participant Lai Ran, Yu Jianli. Second trial, kill the intruder's participant Song Qingsong. The final trial by fire was actually 2 different missions. Chapter 50 18 Division. The demon from the coffin. As expected, Yu Jianli said cautiously. This coffin is not housing an immortal emperor, but a demon. According to the rules of the trial, the 3 of them were divided into 2 teams. Among them, Lai Ran and Yu Jianli were tasked to kill the demon in the coffin. And since Song Qingsong had touched the coffin, he would automatically form a team with the demon, while the mission was to kill Lai Ran's team. No wonder 3 people advanced this time. It turns out that it was all arranged. Lai Ran said coldly. Yu Jianli was stunned for a moment, then understood. After the 3 of them had advanced, the one who was forced to touch the coffin would definitely be the weakest. The 2 remaining experts would automatically form a team. It meant that from the perspective of the secret realm's creator, this demon was extremely powerful. Powerful enough to close the gap between Song Qingsong and them. So what exactly is this place? The 3 focused their gazes on the enormous coffin. Apart from the black mist that was constantly flowing out from the gap, nothing happened for a long time. I must have made a mistake. How could I form a team with the demon? Song Kingson turned around and prepared to leave. He didn't want to become enemies with these two freaks. It was at this moment that a hand covered with fur suddenly stretched out from the gap and firmly grabbed his wrist. What is this? Before he could finish his sentence, he was pulled into the coffin. Song Kingson's heart-wrenching scream rang out from the coffin. Only after an entire 10 minutes had passed did the screams gradually stop. The coffin lid was overturned, and a monster slowly climbed out. Its body was like a tiger, and its fur was exuberant. However, it had a human face, and a pair of wild boar-like fangs were visible from its mouth. It looked extremely ferocious. As for that human face, it was none other than Song Kingson. However, his eyes were now green and white, and he did not even have any eyes. It was obvious that he had lost consciousness. Tiger body and a human face. Its Tao Wu. Yu Jianli's pupils contracted. Tao Wu, also known as Ao Yan, was a legendary ancient demon. TLN Tao Wu actually translates to the legendary beast. But I figured out leaving it as Pinyin would make it sound better. A demon known for its arrogance and ruthlessness. Although the demon in front of them only had a trace of its bloodline, even such a thin bloodline would make it an extremely terrifying existence. Eat, eat, eat. The Tao Wu made a hoarse and unpleasant sound as its saliva flowed down the corner of its mouth. The Tao Wu, which had been sealed for thousands of years, desperately desired the taste of the flesh. This the final trial. Isn't this too outrageous? Yu Jianli's expression was bitter. It's just an animal. Just kill it. Lai Ran took out his silver spear and rushed over. At this moment, his spear intent surged along with the demon's roar. One man and one demon were beaten into a ball. Yu Jianli cleared her thoughts and her eyes became calm as she sheathed her sword to join the battle. For a moment, the hall was filled with rumbling sounds as her sword Kai surged. Their faces became darker as they fought. This demon's strength was simply terrifying. Not only was it extremely powerful, it was also immune to Dao techniques. The black mist that was emitted was able to devour Kai. Every time they fought the demon, they would lose a large amount of Kai. Furthermore, because of Song Kingson's existence, it had obtained a golden core realm cultivation and was able to use the supreme Dao Palace's technique. I can't continue like this. If I were to continue fighting, I'd exhaust myself to death. A resolution flashed in Yu Jianli's eyes. She withdrew from the battle and quickly formed an incantation in her hand. She softly muttered, "Jai Jai." The divine light on her longsword gushed and rapidly expanded in the air. In the end, it turned into a gigantic sword. The huge sword was aimed at the demon, and the pure sword intent filled the entire space. This girl really had some tricks up her sleeve. Yu Jianli forcefully pressed down. Cut. The huge sword moved in response, carrying an incomparably sharp sword intent as it whistled through the air. The giant sword was unblemished, and it was capable of killing the demon. The Tao Yu's eyes were filled with ferocity, and it reached out to grab the sword. Yu Jianli's eyes flashed with joy. Although this demon is strong, my sword is not. Before she could finish her sentence, her eyes became wide open, as if she had been strangled. All she could see was a large hand grabbing the blade. No matter how much the sword resisted, it was unable to break free. The sword Kai was instantly devoured by the black mist. Impossible. A sinister smile appeared on the Tao Yu's face. It hardened its finger and with a pinch, the giant sword was directly broken. The giant sword returned to its original form, turning into a long sword that flew back into the ground. Gently trembling, Yu Jianli took a step back. She was clearly flustered. This demon was too strong. It was not an existence that a golden core realm cultivator could deal with. The demon gave another ferocious roar before flying over towards Yu Jianli. It was too late for her to retreat. At this moment, Lai Ran sent the Tao Wu flying with a single strike. It crashed into several pillars before stopping. He glanced at Yu Jianli. Are you all right? Yu Jianli silently shook her head. Her face was pale as a paper. Clearly, she had lost confidence. On the other side, the Tao Wu unsteadily stood up and stared at Lai Ran fiercely. Eat, you. You really think you can eat me? Lai Ran stabbed his silver spear on the ground and rolled up his sleeves. If I don't wring your head off today, my surname won't be Lai. Chapter 59 Lai Ran. Am called Xiao Lei Gong. After hearing Lai Ran's provocation, the demon was infuriated. It let out an earth-shaking roar. Its figure continued to grow, and in the end, it smashed the ceiling into pieces. In front of this 10-meter-long demon, the two of them were as insignificant as gravel. Its ugly face was filled with sinister killing intent. Yu Jianli gulped. What should we do now? Lai Ran scratched his head. He went berserk from just a few words. This fellow's temper is pretty bad. Its body is too strong, and its bloodline provides immunity to Dao techniques. How should we kill it? Yu Jianli frowned. Lai Ran thought about it. Demons are usually afraid of the wrath of the heavens. Thus, we could use lightning to strike them. Lightning strike. Yu Jianli didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even at this time, you still want the heavens to take care of it. I'm quite good at lightning. I don't need the heavens. Lai Ran said seriously. Yu Jianli was stunned. You know how to summon lightning? What a joke. The Tao Wu raised its head and roared. It raised its enormous beast palm and slammed it down. The two of them retreated. The entire hall trembled, and large pieces of rubble were scattered everywhere. Lai Ran said coldly. Don't stay around here. I'm going to hack this beast. What? Yu Jianli was dumbfounded. Lai Ran held the silver spear in his hands. The spear shone with divine light that went as far as 3 feet. As he made his way towards the monster, in front of this wild beast, he was like a moth pouncing on fire. Lai Ran. Be careful. Yu Jianli's heart tightened. However, the next scene completely shocked her. Lai Ran formed a hand incantation and stepped into the void. The protector of 3 realms. I welcome the 5 emperors. The cold voice reverberated in the hall, followed by the fluctuation of formless energy that darkened the entire hall. From the tattered ceiling, dark clouds were gathering in the sky. She raised her head and a trace of fear flashed in her azure-white eyes. The gods' assembly. Grant me the lightning's control. The dark clouds seemed to have been stirred by a formless hand, slowly forming a huge vortex. The air was extremely oppressive. The Tao Wu realized that something was wrong and turned to escape. However, the pressure of the heavens and the earth pressed it down on the ground, depriving even its ability to lift its finger. The demon is terrified, and its spirit is dead. Lai Ran's clothes fluttered, his entire body wrapped in golden light, like a blazing sun in the sky. The heavy clouds above him emitted a terrifying pressure, and thunder rumbled within them as thunderclaps wrapped around them. What is this? Yu Jianli looked at the golden figure, her eyes filled with shock. The demon's heart split apart as if the entire sky was pressed against its body. Blood continuously seeped out from its 7 orifices. Lightning exists in me. The thunder god is omnipresent. Lai Ran roared. His silver spear pointed straight into the sky. Lightning condensed within the dark gray vortex, and the aura from the primordial spirit filled the heavens and the earth. Roar! Golden lightning curse extinction. The ancient incantation echoed within the hall. Suddenly, the wind stopped and the world fell silent. The vortex rapidly rotated. Lightning gathered and fell. Lai Ran's black hair wildly danced amidst the storm. Just like a heavenly god, heaven and earth were unfeeling, and everything perished. The lightning that pierced through the heavens enveloped the demon. Roar! 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 The Tao Wu howled in pain, as lightning pierced through its body, decomposing every cell. Its body began to crumble, scattering like fine sand in the wind. The demon disappeared. It really did. Its body was decomposed into the smallest molecule by the heavenly lightning, leaving not a single trace behind. Lai Ran, too, was stunned. This was the ability of a technique from a super treasure chest. Its power was too monstrous. Lai Ran descended from the sky, his face slightly pale. Yu Jianli stared at him blankly. What kind of ability is this? Communicating with the world, and summoning the heavenly lightning. Was this an ability a Golden Core realm practitioner could use? Lai Ran shrugged his shoulders. I've already told you. I, Lai Ran, am called Xiao Lei Gong. I'm adept at using lightning. Tlnziole gon little thunderlord. Yu giantly lowered her head, her expression bitter. If he wanted to kill me, I would probably already be dead now. How laughable that I wanted to win against him. This was the first time her proud sword heart had tasted defeat. Lai Ran was too strong. Strong to the point of despair. Thinking back to how godly his figure was back then. Was he really the same person who had teased her earlier? She couldn't help but be a bit silly. The lightning dissipated, and the hall became a complete mess. Song Kingsun was lying on the ground on his last breath. He was constantly coughing up blood. He had absorbed most of the power of the golden lightning curse. Yet he managed to survive. However, his internal organs were almost charred by electricity. His body was scorched, and his injuries were extremely serious. Lai Ran walked up to him and squatted down. He sighed and said, I can't even kill you. Your luck is really good. Comrade Toolman. Zem NH1 if you find any errors ads pop up. Ads redirect. Broken links. Non-standard content. Chapter 60 Lai Ran. I will definitely kill you. Song Kingsun looked at Lai Ran with fearful eyes. At this moment, he had been seriously injured. His cultivation had been demolished like a fish on the chopping board. I was forced. The demon took control of my body. I didn't know anything at all, he explained in panic. In fact, he had always been very clear-headed. He even took the initiative to share his kai with Tao Wu. However, how would they find out about this? Lai Ran said indifferently. You wanted to kill me earlier. Right. Song Kingsun's heart tightened. You've misunderstood. How is that possible? How would I dare to attack you? Is that so? Lai Ran looked at him. I've had many opportunities to eliminate you before. Do you know why I've kept you alive until now? Why? Song Kingsun had a bad premonition. Because eliminating would be too easy for you. I want to squeeze your values dry and then send you to die. Lai Ran smiled. Song Kingsun felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. You can't kill me. I am a direct descendant of the Supreme Tao Palace. My master is venerable. How you? If you kill me, you definitely won't face any good consequences. His voice was hoarse. Yu Jianli also huffed. Lai Ran. You can't kill him. Lai Ran's brows twitched. Do you fancy Song Kingsun? That's why you stand up for him repeatedly. What nonsense are you saying? Yu Jianli said angrily. How could I possibly fancy such trash? She looked as if she had been greatly insulted. Lai Ran snorted. Who knows? There might even be someone who fancies such trash. I'm not one of them. I'm content with what I have. Why are you yelling so loudly? Song Kingsun was speechless. Hearing the two of them arguing, he almost spat a mouthful of blood. You really don't treat me like a person. However, as long as he could survive, what was the point of being insulted? When he returned to the sect, he would definitely make them pay. At that time, the person I killed would be planted on Lai Ran, and then the news that he had obtained the immortal emperor's inheritance would be released. The righteous path cultivators won't let him grow. As for Yu Jianli, a crime of joining hands with the devil's sex Shang Zai and harming one's comrade, she definitely won't be able to escape. Song Kingsun sneered in his heart. His eyes became even more sinister. Lai Ran frowned. Since you hate him, why are you stopping me? Yu Jianli glared at him and said, Song Kingsun is a direct disciple of the Supreme Tao Palace. His soul is bound with the divine jade. If you kill him, the Supreme Tao Palace will soon find out. Of the 10 people who entered the secret realm, 9 of them are from righteous sects. Only you, a person of devil sect, can undoubtedly kill him. The Supreme Tao Palace won't let you off. Although Song Kingsun's strength was ordinary, he had an extraordinary reputation in the mortal realm due to his frequent presence. Now that he had died at the hands of a fiend, it was akin to slapping the face of the Supreme Tao Palace. Although Yueyuo Temple was very powerful, the Supreme Tao Palace was not a weakling. Furthermore, if a top sect was determined to deal with a golden core realm cultivator, there was simply no way to escape. Lai Ran couldn't hide in the sect forever. Right. Lai Ran rubbed his chin and looked at her. So are you worried about me? Who cares about you? You saved my life. I clearly have a grudge. The more she said, the less confident she became. Lai Ran looked at her in amusement. Has anyone told you that you are quite cute sometimes? Roman 2 cute you Jianli's face instantly turned red. Not cute I'll kill you. Her flustered appearance made Lai Ran laugh. Sure. He couldn't help but rub Yu Jianli's head. You're Fengayashan. You're not cute at all. Alright. As if Yu Jianli had been hit on her acupuncture point. She stood there blankly. Her earlobe turned even more crimson. After a while, she gritted her teeth, and with a red face, she said, Lai Ran, I will definitely kill you. Oh, I know. Lai Ran stood tall as he looked at Song Kingsung, who was lying on the ground. Don't worry. As long as you let me go, I will guarantee that the sect won't cause you any trouble. Song Kingsung gave a wry smile. Lai Ran nodded. I am indeed very afraid of trouble. Song Kingsung heaved a sigh of relief. Thank you. Shang Zai. A silver spear suddenly pierced through his forehead and nailed him to the ground. Song Kingsung's eyes were still filled with the joy of surviving a crisis. His pupils gradually expanded before the light in his eyes became dim. Yu Jianli sighed. Venerable Hao Yu's status is very high. If you kill his disciple, this matter won't end well. Who said I killed him? Lai Ran laughed. He clearly died at the hands of a demon. What does it have to do with me? Yu Jianli shook her head. Then aren't you afraid that I'll tell on you, or are you also going to kill me? There's no need to go through that trouble. Lai Ran continued with a serious expression. If you dare to tell anyone about it, I'll tell them. About your pink underwear. Yu Jianli was speechless. Lai Ran. Unsheath your sword. She slowly drew her sword. I'll fight you to the death. Chapter 61 The Burning Heaven Emperor. It wasn't easy for Lai Ran to get Yu Jianli under control. First, he sealed her with a spiritual pressure seal, and then he tightly held her in his arms. Quickly let me go. Yu Jianli glared at him hatefully. Her eyes filled with shame and anger. Then you have to guarantee that you won't kill me with your sword. Lai Ran was a little worried. You beast. Yu Jianli was agitated and took a bite out of Lai Ran's hand. Damn. Are you a dog? Don't bite my hand. At this moment, text appeared in the sky. The end of the final trial, followed by the text. A familiar white light enveloped the two of them and they appeared in another palace. This palace was even more magnificent. It was filled with immortal Kai, and the sound of an immortal spiraling in one's ears made one feel like they were in a fairyland. In front of the two, an old man with an immortal aura was looking at them kindly. Congratulations! You've passed the final trial. The old man's voice was amicable. Yu Jianli hurriedly broke free from his embrace and straightened her clothes with a red face. Cough cough. Lai Ran cleared his throat awkwardly. Who are you? The old man's voice was clear. Kid, didn't you go through all these difficulties and obstacles to obtain my inheritance? You still don't know who I am. The immortal Emperor Lai Ran and Yu Jianli looked at each other, their hearts pounding. Could this person be the ancient immortal emperor? Yu Jianli asked carefully. May I ask for your esteemed name? Ha ha ha. The old man's laughter echoed in the hall. Ignorant child, I am the immortal emperor from ancient times. The Burning Heaven Emperor. Burning Heaven Emperor. Yu Jianli covered her mouth and exclaimed in alarm. You are the Burning Heaven Emperor who had conquered the entire world. He was a real big shot. Rumor had it that he controlled more than 10 types of heavenly flames and dictated an era. This secret realm was actually the inheritance of the Burning Heaven Emperor. Even if she was indifferent, it was unavoidable that her heart would be moved at this moment. Lai Ran, on the other hand, didn't move. He crossed his arms as he observed the old man. Didn't the immortal emperors of ancient times already disappear? Why are you still here? The elder stroked his beard and said, This emperor's true body has already left for outer space, only leaving behind a strand of this emperor's willpower to guard this secret realm, waiting for someone destined to arrive. Then why did we both advance? Who does this inheritance belong to? Lai Ran followed up and asked. The old man rolled his eyes and said, It's because both of you are the destined one. Each person can claim half of the inheritance. Don't worry. This one's cultivation is vast. Even if it's half of the inheritance, it's enough for you to ascend to the emperor level. Half of the inheritance. Lai Ran felt that something was wrong. At this moment, a ding sounded in his mind. A system prompt sounded. Mission issued. The fiendish red fox is pretending to be the burning heaven emperor, hoping to steal a physical body to leave the secret realm. Please, kill it. You really are fake. Lyran sneered. At this moment, the old man urged, don't waste your time. Which one of you will come first to accept the inheritance? He looked very anxious. Yu Jianli also sensed that something was wrong and quietly pulled Lyran's clothes. Isn't quite right. Lyran didn't seem to notice. He hurriedly said, I'll do it. I'll claim it first. Lyran Yu Jianli wanted to remind him, but he turned around and winked at her. She immediately reacted and shut her mouth. All right, then you can relax and open your heart's door. I will give you the inheritance. The old man's hand shone with bright red light as he slowly pressed down on Lyran's hand. Seeing that the red light was about to touch him, the old man's eyes grew even more excited. Suddenly, a large hand gripped his wrist, tightly. And what are you doing? The old man frowned. You're a fiendish red fox. Correct, you really like impersonating others. What when the old man heard this name? His expression instantly changed. He hastily tried to retract his hand. However, when Lyran grabbed his hand, a dazzling white light suddenly appeared. Demon thrashing fist. The white light was like a strong acid, instantly corroding the old man's wrist. As the old man hissed and emitted wisps of black smoke, the old man let out a heart-wrenching howl. He didn't have the appearance of an immortal Taoist like before. The burning heaven emperor, do you really think we're fools? Lyran laughed coldly. This godly technique was a demon's nemesis. In addition, the old man was extremely weak and his body was easily corroded by the white light. Let me go. Please let me go. I will pass the inheritance to you. The old man howled and begged for mercy. However, Lyran remained unmoved and activated his fist attack to the extreme. The old man's body was like the first snow meeting the blazing sun. He quickly melted under the white light, and in the end, he turned into a crimson fox demon. It laid on the ground struggling. What is this? Yu Jianli covered her mouth in surprise. Actually, the fiendish red fox was the same as the Tao Wu. They were demons that had been sealed here. However, because the seal had been loosened, it had managed to find a chance to escape. However, it had been heavily injured as a result, and its strength was nowhere to be found. Although it had left the coffin, it was still trapped in this secret realm. This time, the fiendish red fox happened to catch up to Lyran and the others who came to seek fortuitous encounters. He had come up with a plan to pose as the burning heaven emperor. It attempted to escape from the place and turn into a new leaf through the body of others. Unfortunately, it was easily seen through by the system. The fiendish red fox body trembled, and its voice was sharp and ear-piercing. I beg you, please spare my life. I'll bring you the true, immortal destiny. Lyran stabbed its head with his spear. Noisy. Chapter 62 Disillusioned I. The fiendish red fox hadn't understood how this golden core realm brat had seen through it after its death. Not to mention that he was so decisive, indifferent towards the inheritance. Unfortunately, it would never know the answer to these questions. The fiendish red fox's fiery red body turned gray. A notification sounded in Lyran's mind. Mission completed. Degree of completion perfect. Obtains super treasure chest X1. Lyran immediately opened the treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the disillusioned eye divine ability. This divine ability was able to see through illusions and all deceptions. Nothing could be concealed in front of it. To be able to see through the barriers and openings is extremely useful. This is a good ability. Lyran's eyes slightly trembled. His pupils seemed to be covered with a gold layer. The world in his eyes instantly became clear and vivid. It was like a transformation from a black and white television to a 4K screen. Lyran Yu Jianli called out to him. He turned around, but in the end, he almost got a nosebleed. FCK. The ability had such a function. This ability was too crazy. But this girl's figure wasn't bad. Her waist was slim and her skin was so white that it seemed to reflect light. It's just that I can't afford it. Yu Jianli waved her hand in front of his eyes. I'm talking to you. Why are you so dumbfounded? Don't shake it. I can't take it. Lyran snapped back to his senses and gulped. Nothing. How could this be a disillusioned eye? This was clearly an LSBI. TLNLSB dirty old man. This ability absolutely must be kept a secret. Otherwise, he would probably be pursued by all the female cultivators. Yu Jianli did not think too much about it and asked. I said, how do you know that the Burning Heaven Emperor is a fake? Lai Ran smiled. To be able to set up the world law that we must submit to during the stairway trial meant that the Burning Heaven Emperor is an arrogant and domineering person. As for that old man, he was laughing like a baby. He was eager to pass on the inheritance to us. How could he have the aura of an immortal emperor? It's obvious that there's something fishy. Yu Jianli nodded in agreement. This was what she found strange. This Burning Heaven Emperor was simply too anxious for something. Then how did you know that it was a fiendish red fox? Yu Jianli couldn't understand. Lai Ran shrugged his shoulders. Because he has a foxy smell. Yu Jianli almost spat a mouthful of blood. The hell would I believe you? If he didn't want to explain, he could just say it rather than making such a weird excuse. Yu Jianli rolled her eyes and didn't ask any further. Alas, the fiendish red fox is dead. No one knows where inheritance is. She sighed helplessly. This fiendish red fox was sinister and cunning. If they could kill it, they should kill it. Otherwise, it would set a cunning plan against them. Unfortunately, the two of them had experienced a great deal of hardship. Yet in the end, they had brushed past the inheritance. The inheritance. Lai Ran's eyes glowed with deep golden divine light as he scanned the hall. Under the effect of the disillusioned eye, all the illusions in front of him disappeared, returning to their original state. He could even see the flow of Kai around them. Under the throne ahead, a blazing light attracted his attention. Lai Ran walked over and took out a metal box under the throne. It was engraved with complicated patterns as if the great Tao could immerse one's mind into it. When he opened it, he saw an ancient book and a key lying inside. Yu Jianli came over to take a look and was stunned. The Burning Heaven Incantation. This was a technique that made the Burning Heaven Emperor famous. He cultivated the technique to the peak and could set the sky ablaze with a wave of his hand. Furthermore, because it was an immortal emperor cultivation technique, it did not contain any flaws. It was enough to allow one to cultivate to the emperor level. It turned out that this place was really a secret realm that the Burning Heaven Emperor had created. The inheritance also exists. At this moment, the voice of great Tao sounded in their ears. Immortal Emperor's inheritance couldn't be given lightly. 2 treasures. 1 take each. No wonder the two of us advanced. So this inheritance can only be taken by one person. He glanced at Yu Jianli, only to see her staring at the Burning Heaven Incantation with longing. Want it? Yu Jianli hesitated for a long time, but still shook her head and replied, no, this belongs to you. Without Lai Ran, she would have already died at the hands of the demon. Even if she was lucky enough to pass the trial, it was highly likely that she would have been plotted against by the fiendish red fox. She was not qualified to take this inheritance. However, Lai Ran picked up the ancient book and tossed it to her. Yu Jianli caught the book. What are you doing? Lai Ran said casually. 1 for each person. The cultivation technique is yours, and the key is mine. Yu Jianli was stunned. No one knew what the key meant. On the other hand, the Burning Heaven Incantation was a true immortal emperor level cultivation technique. This is an immortal emperor's cultivation technique. She couldn't help but remind him. Lai Ran shrugged. I'm not interested in it anyway. If you don't want it, then you can use it as toilet paper. He was indeed not interested in this cultivation technique. Does an immortal emperor's cultivation technique matter to him if it requires him to bitterly cultivate? Was it more tempting than a technique that can let him cultivate 247? Moreover, Lai Ran was certain that the level of heaven seizing technique would definitely far exceed this Burning Heaven Incantation. Yu Jianli was angry and stupefied. To use the cultivation technique of an immortal emperor as toilet paper, he really is. She didn't hold back and nodded. Thank you. However, the look in Lai Ran's eyes became more complicated. You're welcome. You deserve it, Lai Ran said. Although he had saved Yu Jianli's life, the other party had also helped him at the cloud stairway. Moreover, he had already seen her everything. It was hard to say who owed who. Most importantly, Ran's intuition told him that this key was extremely valuable. The question is, how should I use it? Chapter 63 True Inheritance Burning Heaven Sacred Flame. Ran pushed his disillusioned eye to the limit and searched the hall for a long time. He didn't even notice any hidden mechanisms. How does this key exactly work? Ran looked carefully at the bronze key in his hand. The key was roughly the size of a palm with a green and black shade. The patterns on it were complicated and exquisite as if some sort of ancient secret resided in it. Ran poured his kai into the key. Buzz! The key began trembling. The green and black layer began to fall off from the key, replaced by a blazing light. At the same time, Ran's kai was rapidly depleting, continuously being absorbed by the key. What the hell? Just when he felt that he was about to be sucked dry, the layers on the key completely fell off and his entire body disappeared from the spot. Looking at the empty hall, Eugene was dumbfounded. What happened? Ran opened his eyes and saw that he was in an extremely large space. In front of him stood a sea of blazing inferno. The fiery red lava erupted, and from time to time, it would spew out flames. The strong smell of sulfur in the air, coupled with the extremely high temperature, made it difficult for him to breathe. In the middle of the lava, there was a raging inferno. The flame had a strange golden color. Ran's pupils contracted. It's a heavenly flame. Flames condensed by cultivators were called a spirit flame. Flames born from heaven and earth were called heavenly flames. It was countless times more powerful than a normal spirit flame. The heavenly flame was not only able to refine transcendent-grade medicinal pills, but it was also able to increase one's battle prowess. All the cultivators desire the heavenly flame. However, even though the heavenly flame was extremely tempting, it was also accompanied by fatal danger. If one does not have sufficient strength to forcefully subdue the fire, they might very well die on the spot. Ran flew and arrived in front of the heavenly flame. The golden flame was like a liquid, flowing in space. The powerful might emitted from it caused Ran's heart to palpitate. Golden flame. A flame that flows like a stream of water if I'm not mistaken. This should be the burning heaven sacred flame. That was the legendary heavenly flame controlled by the burning heaven emperor. It was said that even Kai in space could be completely incinerated by it. So this is the true inheritance. Ran suddenly understood. Apart from the heavenly flames and lava, there was nothing else in this space. After using the key once, it had already disappeared. The meaning was very simple. Those who had seen the burning heaven sacred flame have to either subdue it or perish here. No wonder he said that the immortal emperor inheritance could not be given lightly. This burning heaven emperor is truly ruthless. Ran was certain that there was no other exit. He could only wrap his right hand with the demon threshing fist and carefully touch the heavenly flame. The instant he touched it, the white light of the demon threshing fist was instantly destroyed. The berserk heavenly flame surged into his body, rushing through his hands and burning his meridians. Ran endured the heart-wrenching pain as he circulated his heaven-seizing technique. The heaven-seizing technique devoured 10,000 techniques. The golden ancient seal appeared and faced off against the burning heaven sacred flame. The two foreign forces happily fought. As for the owner of the body, Ran greatly suffered. His burned meridians were quickly restored by the heaven-seizing technique. Burn, recover, burn, recover. The heart-splitting pain made him wish he could faint right away. However, the power of the heaven-seizing technique kept him awake. After an unknown period had passed, the brutal confrontation quietly stopped. Ran's numb eyes gradually restored their life. His clothes had long been burned clean. His muscles were bulging, and his body was covered with a golden divine tattoo. As he breathed, he spat out a burst of white energy. Ran clenched his fists and felt the kai surging within his body. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. Nice. This miserable confrontation caused his meridians to be completely reformed. Regardless of whether it was gathering kai or recovery speed, they were all several times faster than before. Most importantly, there was a golden flame tattoo in his right palm. Ran gently pressed his right hand against the wall. Golden flame surged out, instantly vaporizing the entire rock wall. Too strong, Lai Ran couldn't help sighing. The might of the heavenly flame would increase as its owner's strength increases. When he reached a higher realm, how terrifying would the flame be? All of a sudden, the entire space began to tremble. Huge rocks fell, and magma surged up like a fountain. Not good. The heavenly flame was subdued and the secret realm is about to collapse. Lai Ran's palm erupted with flames, and his figure disappeared. On the other side, Yu Jianli was floating in the air, staring blankly at the collapsed palace. What's going on here? The entire space suddenly collapsed. A trace of panic appeared in her eyes. Suddenly, Lai Ran appeared and pulled her into his embrace. Yu Jianli raised her head and opened her mouth slightly. A huge golden giant appeared and held the entire dome and tightly protected the two of them. Chapter 64 Flying Cloud Peaks Upheaval. The Grand Myriad Mountain Range. The two sharp-toothed tigers were about to descend from the opening, prepared to enjoy the vast land. Suddenly, a huge golden palm fell down from the sky and smashed down on a large tree. The golden fist slowly loosened and a man and woman laid on the golden palm. It was Lai Ran and Yu Jianli. After the heavenly flame was taken away, for some reason, the secret realm didn't immediately send them out. Instead, it began to collapse. How terrifying was the destructive power of a separate space. Lai Ran had to exert all his strength and use the unique manifest to barely survive the crushing. Even so, he had already reached the point where he had run out of fuel. He fainted on the spot. The golden hand dispersed, and the two of them fell to the ground. Yu Jianli's face was dirty and her appearance was very miserable. However, she couldn't care less. She hastily leaned against Lai Ran's chest and listened nervously. Only after hearing the powerful heartbeat did she let out a sigh of relief. The two sharp-toothed tigers reacted. This was like a pie falling from the sky. They had just used up their energy and two proteins appeared in front of them for replenishment. They were simply elated. Swish! The sound of cutting through air rang out as the two tigers' heads rolled far away. Their eyes were still filled with longing for food. Yu Jianli put her sword back into the sheath. Her knees went limp and she collapsed to the ground. He saved my life again. She looked at Lai Ran with a complicated expression, and her pretty face suddenly flushed. His clothes were burned by the heavenly flame, so he didn't have time to change. Right now, he was lying naked on the ground. Yu Jianli's face turned red as she turned her head. This Shangzai is sleeping comfortably on his own. At this moment, the sky was getting dark, and demonic beasts were howling. Yu Jianli gritted her teeth and stood up to help Lai Ran up. She placed her arm on him, feeling the heat coming from his body. Her face blushed like she had a fever. Having made a decision, she stepped on the flying sword and headed towards the sky. Flying Cloud Peak. Supreme Tao Palace. The deacon who was in charge of overseeing the direct disciples and the divine soul jade plate was patrolling around as usual. As a top sect, who dared to provoke a direct disciple of the Supreme Tao Palace? Not to mention killing one. The so-called monitoring was just a routine. The deacon walked around for a while. Just as he was about to close the door and leave, a crack suddenly rang. A bad premonition arose in his heart. And when he heard this, he looked over and saw that a soul jade plate had shattered. The direct disciple Song Kingsum died. Venerable Hao Yu was enraged. The entire Flying Cloud Peak was filled with fury, the southern territory of the vast land. Inside a luxurious manor, few figures with profound auras sat together. Their names were enough to shake the earth. Joyous Unity Sect, Yin Corpse Tao, Yuo Temple. The sect masters of the top devil sects were all gathered here. It could be called a grand ceremony of devils. As for Leng Wuyan, she sat in the highest position and coldly glanced at the crowd. Sect leader Leng, the righteous practitioners is now too strong. The Devil Tao Alliance was established to protect everyone's interests. Why are you against this? A young man dressed in white robes spoke up. A beautiful female slave was rubbing his shoulders. He is the sect master of Joyous Unity Sect, Liu Zunhuan. Leng Wuyan looked at him with disgust. Both dressed in a white robe. Rainer was so handsome and masculine, yet Liu Zunhuan is so feminine. Sect master Leng, seeing that she didn't reply, Liu Zhenhuan couldn't help but frown. Lang Wuyan said with indifference, "As I've said, whatever you want to do has nothing to do with the Yueyuo temple. I won't stop you. Nor will I participate. Everyone is from a devil sect. So how can you stay out of this?" Liu Zhenhuan said. Lang Wuyan sneered. "If you think we're on the same boat, then you're mistaken." "What does that mean?" Liu Zhenhuan frowned. "Back when the Righteous Path Alliance attacked my sect, did one of you stand out and say that you wanted to advance and retreat with my sect?" Lang Wuyan's gaze swept over everyone. "You're unable to withstand the pressure now. Yet you want to drag my Yueyuo temple into the hot waters. Do you really think I'm a fool?" Her voice wasn't loud, but it was deafening. The devil sect cultivators were embarrassed by her words, and they didn't know what to say. Liu Zhenhuan was about to say something when his eyes suddenly met Lang Wuyan's eyes. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. That sheer killing intent was completely undisguised. Lang Wuyan stood up and calmly said, "Regardless of whether it's the devil sect or the righteous sect, anyone who wants to strike the Yueyuo temple will meet my sword first." A boundless sword kai swept past, creating a terrifying ravine between her and the crowd. The entire manor was split in half. Lang Wuyan had already disappeared. Liu Zhenhuan gulped. This witch temper is still as violent as before. Her cultivation is still as strong as ever. If she continues like this, she will probably be single for the rest of her life. Shh, you dare to say this? Don't drag me down with you. This is the truth. The few great devils started gossiping. Lang Wuyan stood on the cliff and looked at the mountains in front of her. Her eyes were full of thoughts. "I don't know what Rainer was doing now. Does he miss me?" Lie. The eagle fell and the jade tablet fell into her hands. Lang Wuyan looked carefully and couldn't help but be stunned. Rainer actually entered the secret realm. As she continued reading, her eyes instantly turned cold. Supreme Tao Palace. Chapter 65. Treatment of an Immortal Emperor's Inheritor. 500 miles outside Wuyong City. A remote house inside a small valley village. Lai Ran slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the thatched ceiling above him, he was stunned for a moment before he heaved a sigh of relief. "I'm not dead." How terrifying was the power of the collapse of the secret realm. He exerted all of his strength to activate the abnormal phenomenon, exhausting all of his kai. He even used the heaven seizing technique to absorb the impact. Only then did he barely survive. However, due to his overexertion, he had also fallen into a coma. "I don't know how long I have been unconscious." Lai Ran wanted to sit up, but his right hand was pressed down. For a moment, he couldn't raise it. He turned his head to look, immediately stunned. Yu Jianli was sleeping soundly by the bed. Her fair and delicate face was beautiful and dreamy under the sunlight. A faint red light fell down on her little face, giving her a truly adorable look. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly, and a few strands of hair fell on her white cheeks. "Just a scene from a painting." Lai Ran gulped. "When this girl doesn't have a sword in her hands, she is actually quite pretty." He wanted to pull his hand away, but Yu Jianli subconsciously grumbled and hugged him even tighter. "Soft. What a fellow. You want to test a cotter with something like this?" He took a deep breath and used a bit more strength. And Yu Jianli opened her eyes in a daze. Lai Ran's body froze. He looked straight ahead as if he was an old monk. "You're awake." Yu Jianli's eyes flashed with joy as she suddenly realized that her arms were entangled with his. She blushed and hastily stood up. Lai Ran also silently withdrew his arm. The air was quiet, and the atmosphere was awkward. Cough cough. Lai Ran cleared his throat and asked, "Where are we?" "This place is called Yunzhou Village. I'm worried that if we were to enter Wuyong City with your status, we might attract unnecessary problems. So I temporarily place you here," Yu Jianli replied. Lai Ran nodded. "How long have I been unconscious for?" "Today is the 3rd day." "So long?" Lai Ran rubbed his hair. This secret realm was truly dangerous. Although the immoral opportunities were alluring to many, it was often accompanied by enormous risks. He had only managed to escape unscathed with all his treasures and divine abilities. If it were any other golden core realm cultivator, their corpse would probably have turned cold. However, his harvest this time was filled with alms pots. so he did not risk it for nothing. TLN, I couldn't find any reference to this, but the meaning is probably a fruitful harvest. Golden lightning curse. Disillusioned eye. Burning heaven's sacred flame, as well as a large number of immortal materials and spirit herbs in his storage ring. The rewards of the system and the rewards of the secret realm made Lai Ran's strength soar. He was about to get out of bed, but suddenly, with a hiss, he frowned. He felt as if all his meridians had been blocked. He could not feel any strength at all. Yu Jianli took a pillow and placed it behind him. You can't feel your meridians because you've overexhausted your Kai. You'll need time to sort it out. You can't be in a hurry. Thank you, Lai Ran said. Yu Jianli shook her head and said with seriousness, I should thank you. Thank you for not leaving me behind. Otherwise, I would have turned into smithereens. She would never forget the shocking scene of the golden palm protecting her. Lai Ran was capable of escaping by himself, but he chose to spend a bit more effort to escape with her. Otherwise, his injuries might not have been so severe. Lai Ran shook his head. It's just a simple matter. There's no need to thank you. Moreover, this matter might happen because of me. Because of you. Yu Jianli couldn't understand. Lai Ran said, the existence of the secret realm is for the sake of finding someone destined. In the end, we obtained the inheritance. That is the inheritor of the immortal emperor. However, not only did the secret realm not send us away safely, it collapsed. Don't you find it strange? And this was what Yu Jianli was confused about. In the end, the formation seemed to be eager to bury the two of them. This wasn't the sort of treatment an immortal emperor's inheritor should receive. Lai Ran snorted coldly. It's the world's laws. When I ascended the cloud stairs, I disobeyed its authority. So the world's laws wanted me to die. The final collapse was obviously caused by those strands of the world's laws. It couldn't stop Lai Ran from obtaining the inheritance, because this was the immortal emperor's arrangement. However, it could use the loopholes of the natural laws to make Lai Ran die at the final moment. Unfortunately, Lai Ran was fine, but he disappeared along with the secret realm. I see. Yu Jianli suddenly understood. If that was the case, then it would make sense. Lai Ran sneered. You bastard. You still want to die with me, dream on. He spoke too forcefully, causing his injuries to be affected. He coughed violently for a moment. Yu Jianli laughed. All right. I know you're powerful. Rest well. She got up and left. After a while, she walked over with a bowl of soup. This is the concoction I made with the spirit recovery pill. You can drink it. You made me soup. Lai Ran quivered. He said cautiously. You didn't poison the medicine? Right. Chapter 66. Yu Jianli's method of feeding medicine. Yu Jianli was threatening him with his life every day. But now, she took the initiative to concoct medicine for him. In Lai Ran's eyes, someone was off. Big boss. Get up and drink medicine first. You suspect him poisoning you? Yu Jianli was infuriated. You've been lying here for 3 days and I could've killed you hundreds of times. Why would I have to go through so much trouble? That seems true. Lai Ran scratched his head awkwardly. I fed you this medicine every day. If it's poisoned, you would've already died from poison. Yu Jianli glared at him hatefully. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong weight. You said you fed me every day. Lai Ran asked suspiciously. I've been unconscious. How did you feed me medicine? He hadn't heard of anyone who had fainted and was still able to drink medicine. She couldn't possibly be making things up. Right. This Yu Jianli was speechless for a moment and her face blushed. Lai Ran nodded and said, He, I knew it. Yu Jianli asked nervously. You know what? I knew you were lying to me. You didn't feed me medicine these past days. Did you? Lai Ran snorted. Yu Jianli heaved a sigh of relief and couldn't help licking her lips. Her pink cherry lips were small and charming. You know so much. Lai Ran's meridians were in a mess. It was very difficult to even raise his hand. Yu Jianli carried the concoction and fed it to him with a spoon. Her eyes wandered and she did not dare to look at him. Lai Ran said with a smile, You, a righteous fairy, actually took care of a demon. If the word of this gets out, even the righteous path cultivators won't be able to tolerate you. HMPH. I'm just repaying your favor, Yu Jianli said coldly. It's unfair to fight you now. When you have fully recovered, I'll kill you. Lai Ran clutched his chest and let out a painful cry. What's wrong? Yu Jianli put down the bowl of soup and asked nervously. Did the injury recur? Does it hurt? It hurts. How about you rub it? All right. As soon as she agreed, she felt something was wrong. She looked up and saw Lai Ran looking at her with a smile. He didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. Yu Jianli punched him in the chest and said in embarrassment, You're not even injured to such an extent. Lai Ran's face turned pale and he was almost sent away by the punch. This girl is really ruthless. Yu Jianli turned her head in anger and acted as if she didn't want to talk to him. Don't be angry. It's just a joke. We're all comrades in arms. Come, hold my hand. Lai Ran smiled and extended his hand. We live and die together. Yu Jianli's eyes softened and she said with a stern face, Then why do you want to shake hands? This is the traditional etiquette of my hometown. If we shake our hands, we are friends. Lai Ran explained. Yu Jianli glared at him. Isn't your hometown Wuyong City? Why haven't I heard of such etiquette? Why would I deceive you? As the saying goes, take my hand and you're my girlfriend. I mean a good friend. You're spouting nonsense again. Yu Jianli stuffed her delicate hand into his palm. Feeling the intense heat, her face became feverish. Again, Lai Ran. When I thoroughly study the burning heaven incantation, I will definitely defeat you. Good luck. At that moment, the sound of knocking sounded from the door and a middle-aged woman walked in. Seeing this, she couldn't help but smile. That's great. Young man, you're finally awake. Lai Ran was taken aback. This is Andy's son who lent us the house. She's very kind. Yu Jianli introduced. She did not have any contempt or arrogance just because she was a mortal. Auntie's son said, Young man, you have a good wife. You must treat her well in the future. Auntie's son, you misunderstood. We're not a couple, Yu Jianli explained. Hey, these matters. How can it be hidden from me? Auntie's son smiled and said, If you're not a couple, would you stay awake to boil herbs for him for several nights or feed the medicine to him through mouth? Tometh. What mouth? Tometh? He stared blankly at Yu Jianli. Don't listen to Auntie's son's nonsense. It's nothing. Yu Jianli stomped her feet in embarrassment and turned around to escape. Her actions proved the truth. Lai Ran's eyes were blank as he laid on the bed like a walking corpse. I lost my first kiss. Woo woo woo. Master, this disciple has let you down. Auntie's son smiled kindly and sighed. How nice is it to be young? In the next few days, Lai Ran lived in this little Yunzio village. With the existence of the heaven-seizing cultivation method and immortal materials, his injuries were rapidly recovering. Yu Jianli didn't seem to have anything to do every day, other than studying burning heaven incantation. She was just bickering with Lai Ran. Actually, she could have left a long time ago, but she felt reluctant to do so for some reason. On the next day, she was drying her clothes in the courtyard, and a burst of sound whistled through the air. A few green-robed swordsmen appeared in front of her. When Yu Jianli's eyes landed on the leader of the green-robed men, her pupil could not help but narrow. Chapter 67. Jealous Chenjushan. These green-robed swordsmen were the deacons of the Myriad Sword Pavilion. Each of their strengths was incomparably strong. Their leader was a man called Chenjushan. He was the son of the first elder of the Myriad Sword Pavilion, the inner sect's eldest, senior brother. Even Yu Jianli, the chief disciple, had to address him as senior brother Chen. The Myriad Sword Pavilion has a unique tracing method, but I didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. Yu Jianli's expression looked grave. Lai Ran was still inside the room. Junior sister Yu, I finally found you. Chenjushan's eyes were filled with joy. Ever since you entered the secret realm, I haven't heard anything back. Senior brother is dying of anxiety. Yu Jianli was the future sect leader. She was also a beautiful and talented woman. As for Chenjushan, regardless of his identity, status, or appearance, he was also extraordinary. Therefore, in the eyes of the sects, elders and ordinary disciples, the two of them were a match made in heaven. As time passed, even Chenjushan harbored this thought. After Yu Jianli had entered the secret realm, he had not heard from her for a long time. Shen Yushan was so anxious that he brought a group of deacons to find her. He did not expect to find her in this small village. Yu Jianli said coldly, "Thank you, Senior Brother Chen. When I saw that you were fine, I was relieved." Shen Yushan looked at his surroundings and frowned. "Younger sister, why didn't you return to the sect instead of staying in this small village? Compared to the Sword Peak with abundant immortal Kai, this place was simply in tatters." Yu Jianli said, "It's nothing. I just wanted a change of mood, so I came to relax here." "Okay." Shen Yushan didn't think too much about the matter. "Then you can go back with me. Sect Master was still talking about you a few days ago." This Yu Jianli hesitated for a moment and looked a little reluctant. Although she didn't want to leave, she knew that this was the best choice. "Okay. Let's go." As soon as she finished her sentence, Auntie Sun walked out. "Little girl, you need to leave. It's about time to eat. Go." After dinner, Yu Jianli shook her head and said, "Auntie Sun, that's right. Your husband said his arm hurts and he couldn't lift it. He asked you to feed him." Auntie Sun added. Yu Jianli covered her face helplessly. This guy just happened to cause trouble at a time like this. Husband Chen Yushan frowned and said, "Junior sister, if I didn't hear wrong, since when did you have a Taoist partner? It's just a misunderstanding. Let's go." Yu Jianli didn't want to be entangled further. "Misunderstanding, is this your explanation?" Chen Yushan's expression darkened as he asked. "So you've been with other men all this time?" Yu Jianli frowned and her expression turned cold. "So what if I am? Do I have to explain things to you?" Chen Yushan's expression darkened even more. "Alright. I'd like to see what dragon is hidden in this small village that can make you care so much." With that said, he was about to take his men to the house. "Dang!" Yu Jianli unsheathed her sword. "Let's see who dares to enter." Shen Yushan gritted his teeth. "You actually drew your sword against me for a wild man." A streak of sword intent made a line in front of him. Yu Jianli said icily, "I will make this clear. If you cross this line, don't blame me for not caring about my fellow disciples." The deacons looked at each other. The chief disciple and eldest brother were going to fight. Then who should they help? Shen Yushan was in a frenzy. Yu Jianli wanted to attack him for another man. She had probably been with this man for the past few days. Who knew what happened between the two of them? His face was twisted. Jealousy had clouded his judgment. Shen Yushan took a step forward. Yu Jianli's sword trembled. As long as he crossed this line, this sword would strike him. Seeing her cold eyes, Shen Yushan's throat tightened. This was the number 2 genius on the heavenly genius rankings. Although he was older than her, he might not be able to win if he fought her. Even if he won, he would lose her favorable impression of him. Shen Yushan's eyes shifted and he said in a high voice, "If you have the guts, come out. Don't hide behind a woman like a soft egg." He understood. Yu Jianli must have been deceived by this man's words. Now, all he had to do was provoke the man and force him to give up. He was a noble sword immortal. Could he lose to a village farmer? "Come out if you have the guts. Don't let me look down on you." Chen Yushan put his hands on his waist and shouted. Noisy. A faint voice sounded. A huge golden palm appeared, covering the sky, as it slammed towards Chen Yushan. Chen Yushan was startled and quickly retreated. The huge palm slammed down and the entire mountain shook. Chapter 68 Chen Yushan, I wish you a happy marriage for 100 years. Chapter 68 Chen Yushan, I wish you a happy marriage for 100 years. Looking at the huge pit in front of him, Shen Yushan's calf was trembling. If that palm had hit him, he would probably have been dead. This junior is Chen Yushan, a disciple of the Myriad Sword Pavilion. Who was senior? He asked in a trembling voice. He wanted to identify the opponent's background first so that he wouldn't act rashly. However, after waiting for a long time, no one in the room said anything. Didn't you say he's a coward? Why is he a senior now? Shen Yushan's expression was awkward. He had not expected that there would be such an expert in this village. He had wanted to prove his strength to his junior sister. But in the end, he was crushed like a fly. Junior sister? Who exactly is in this room? He couldn't help but ask. Judging from the might of that palm strike, It must be at least a practitioner of the nascent soul realm. Before Yu Jianli could reply, the male voice sounded once again. A swarm of flies dared disturb this seat. Scram! Following the sound that rang like a bell, dark clouds gathered above their heads. A majestic might of heaven and earth seemed to envelop them. The aura was terrifying. FCK Chen Yushin and the others almost collapsed to the ground. Just a single word could trigger the might of the heavens and the clouds covering the sky. This wasn't just a nascent soul cultivator. This could have been a crossing calamity expert. Yu Jianli held back her laughter and said, "Senior brother Chen, you should leave quickly. The person in the room doesn't have a good temper. If you were to offend him." She deliberately did not finish her sentence. Chen Yushin was so scared that his legs went limp. I just remembered that there are still some things that have not been dealt with in the sect. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. After saying that, he was about to leave. But Yu Jianli said, "The senior is in seclusion here. Senior brother Chen, it's best not to speak nonsense about what happened here." Of course Chen Yushin nodded. "I didn't see anything today." "Good. Take care of yourself," Yu Jianli said. Hold on. Chen Yushin didn't dare to stay any longer. He took the frightened deacons and fled. After flying for several hundred miles, they slowly stopped. "Senior brother Chen, do you want to report this to the sect master?" a deacon asked while panting. "No way. If anyone dares to divulge this matter to anyone, don't blame me for being rude," Chen Yushin snapped at them. What a joke. Wasn't that a slap to his face? "But Chief Disciple Yu is staying there," the deacon said carefully. This Chen Yushin cleared his throat and said, "As long as I'm sure that junior sister is safe, then it is up to her to make her own decisions. As her senior brother, I wish her the best." Faced with a powerful being that was able to manipulate the phenomena of the heavens and the earth, he was no longer in the least bit jealous. At the same time, he swore in his heart, in the future, this small village would be his forbidden area, and he would never step into it again. The deacons looked at him with contempt. Chen Yushin is such a coward. Yu Jianli walked into the room and saw Lai Ran sitting on the chair yawning. "You just used your divine ability. Is your body all right?" she said with concern. "I'm fine." Lai Ran shook his head. "It's just a bluff. I didn't use much Kai." His identity was special. If he were to appear with Yu Jianli, he would bring her a great deal of trouble. He couldn't possibly kill all of her seniors, could he? That was why he had used such a move. "But that senior brother of yours seems to have something with you, right?" Lai Ran joked. Yu Jianli shook her head. "But I have no interest in him." She had no feelings for Chen Yushin to begin with. After experiencing today's events, her hate for him grew to the extreme. Now that he knows that you have a husband at the crossing calamity stage, he probably won't dare to look at you again. Lai Ran smiled. Yu Jianli's face turned red. But after thinking about it, that seemed to be the case. She couldn't help but feel much more relaxed. "Let's eat." "That's right." Lai Ran looked around. "Where's Auntie's son? I just saw her." Yu Jianli suddenly remembered something. Auntie's son is still outside. At this moment, the door suddenly opened. Auntie's son brought a large group of villagers over and excitedly said, There they are." Yu Jianli was taken aback. "What are you doing?" Before she could finish her sentence, all the villagers were kneeling on the ground, their heads banging against the ground. "We greet Lord Immortal. I didn't know that Lord Immortal is residing here. This mortal deserves death. Please forgive me, Lord Immortal." Lai Ran and Yu Jianli looked at each other helplessly. "It seems that we cannot eat this meal." Wuyang City, Xiao Mansion. The travel-worn Xiao King opened the door. The Grand Myriad mountain range was located in the southern territory, and they were far away from Wuyang City. She had to rely on Xiao clan's connections in various places, and it took her a few full days to rush back. She had just walked a few steps when she met Butler Fu. "Miss, why did you only come back now?" Uncle Fu was shocked. "I've made a trip." "Why isn't there anyone in the manor?" "What happened?" Xiao King asked. Uncle Fu hesitated. Under her constant questioning, he whispered, "The Lai family is here to annul the engagement." Chapter 69. Pressure on the Xiao family. Zhao Manor's parlor. The atmosphere was grave. The Zhao family's head and the elders were all gathered here, their gazes fixed on a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man, on the other hand, was aloof as he leisurely drank his tea. Brother Yunhao, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Why are you here to drink tea today sitting on the main seat? Zhao Nian's voice was cheerful. Lai Yunhao put down his teacup and said with a smile, Family head Zhao, let's stop beating around the bush. You should already know the purpose of my visit. Zhao Nian's face immediately darkened. The Zhao family's ancestor had passed away. This was the most vulnerable period the Zhao family had been in. How many families in Wuyang City were targeting the Zhao family's meat? The Lai family had sent someone over at this moment. Naturally, it would be a joyous matter. There could only be one reason: marriage annulment. However, Zhao Nian still held on to his last hope. Brother Yunhao, please speak frankly, Lai Yunhao indifferently said. Lai Ran is the Shangzai of Yueyuo Temple. There are rules prohibiting marriage. I'm afraid it's difficult to fulfill the engagement with Miss Zhao. In order not to delay Miss Zhao's marriage, this engagement should be void. These words were very beautiful. However, everyone in the Zhao family knew that the sect prohibition was a smokescreen. After all these years, the Lai family had never mentioned the engagement. However, when the Zhao family was on the brink of collapse, they came to annul the engagement for this reason. They clearly did not want to get involved in this mess. Zhao Nian forced a smile and said, Brother Yunhao, she's only 18 this year. I'm not in a hurry to talk about her marriage. From what I see, we should think about it a little longer. He wasn't certain that Zhao Qingge would marry Lai Ran. However, at this critical juncture, if the Lai family stood out to annul the engagement, the Zhao family would be a piece of fish on the chopping block. With this marriage contract, others would face this deterrent. Lai Yunhao shook his head and said, Family head Zhao, you're a smart person. There's no need for me to say this. You should know the answer. Right. Zhao Nian frowned. Brother Yunhao. Lai Yunhao raised his hand and snapped. Since that's the case, I'll just say it straight. This engagement must be annulled. This is an announcement, not a discussion. As soon as he said that, the Zhao family's face turned pale. The third elder of the Zhao family slammed his hand on the table and said angrily, Your Lai family is going too far. This engagement was set by our ancestors. How could you just give it up with a single sentence? You aren't putting the Zhao family in your eyes. Lai Yunhao's expression turned cold as he sneered. So what if the ancestors decided on it? Lai Ran is no ordinary person. Impudent. The members of the Zhao family were extremely furious. But the next moment, they became excited. The source of the excitement was a female voice. Is this what Lai Ran wanted, or the Lai family? Everyone raised their heads and saw Zhao Qingge walking in slowly. Qingge, go back. This isn't your place to intrude. Zhao Nian frowned. Zhao Qingge shook her head. It's my marriage. Of course. I should be here. She looked at Lai Yunhao. Elder Lai, you haven't answered my question yet. Lai Yunhao humphed. So what, can you change the truth? Zhao Qingge said indifferently. If you want to annul the engagement, you can. Let Lai Ran personally annul the engagement. Then, Zhao Qingge will immediately break the engagement. Qingge Zhao Nian's expression changed. What if he doesn't come? Lai Yunhao narrowed his eyes. Zhao Qingge did not back down and looked at him. Even though my Zhao family are facing a calamity, not everyone can step on a marriage contract between two ancestors. How could a mere hall elder have the qualifications to annul the marriage? Her voice was clear and resounding in the hall. The atmosphere quieted down. Good. Very good. Lai Yunhao laughed angrily. You are indeed worthy of being a fairy. Even if you have become a mortal, you still have such an imposing aura. Then please remember what you said today. When Lai Ran comes to annul the engagement, you must immediately annul the engagement. After speaking, Lai Yunhao left with a flick of his sleeve. Zhao Nian sighed. Qingge, you're too impulsive. When Lai Ran arrives high, according to his thoughts, annulment of the engagement was a matter of certainty. The longer this matter dragged on, the more breathing room the Zhao family had. However, Zhao Qingge had sealed off her escape route. Zhao Qingge looked out of the window and was a little nervous. Although she knew Lai Ran was sincere, could he withstand the combined pressure of the family and the sect? Yun Zhao village. With Yu Jianli's careful care and the help of the herbs, Lai Ran's body had almost recovered. Ever since Lai Ran displayed his divine power, they had been worshipped by the villagers. Not only was the food delicious, but they were also very respectful towards him. Annie's son didn't dare to joke with them anymore. As soon as she met them, she would say, "Immortal, immortal." This change made the two uncomfortable, so they didn't want to stay any longer. The next day, Lai Ran left behind some banknotes to pay for his accommodation and meals. Without a word, the two of them quietly left the village. Chapter 70. Young Master Lai is back. Above the mountain pass, Lai Ran and Yu Jianli were traveling through the air. "I want to go to Wuyong City." "What about you return to the sect?" Lai Ran asked. Yu Jianli shook her head and said, "The sect has sent a message asking me to go to Mount Feiyan." In fact, she had already received this news a long time ago. She just pretended to not know. She was reluctant to leave the Yunzhou village. Lai Ran sighed. "I don't know when I'll be able to see you again." Yu Jianli tilted her head and said, "You and I are different. It's better off to not see each other again." She didn't know why, but her nose was sour when she said this, and her heart tightened. Lai Ran was used to her speech manners. "Since that's the case, I'd better avoid you," he said deliberately. "You dare?" Yu Jianli's cheeks puffed. "If you dare to hide from me, Roman II will kill you with one strike." Lai Ran smiled and said, "You only know how to fight and kill. You won't be able to get married like that." Yu Jianli snorted coldly. "The sword way is my companion. I don't need a man." "All right. You're a noble sword immortal. Don't destroy the moral world." "Okay," Lai Ran said. "If there's no other business, I will leave." "First, wait a minute." Yu Jianli stopped him and said softly, "You have to be careful. Song Kingson's matter is very serious. I probably have been called to Mount Feiyan for this. Don't worry. I won't reveal what happened inside the secret realm. You'd better not stay outside for long. When you're done, you should hurry back to the sect and wait for the matter to die down." She kept reminding him. Her impression didn't look like a sword immortal at all. "All right. I got it." Lai Ran rubbed her head. "Don't you see who I am, Venerable Hao Yu? If he wants to touch me, he has to think twice before taking action. TCH. You're the worst." Yu Jianli's face turned red, but she did not remove Lai Ran's hand. "Then I'll really leave this time. Goodbye, little wife." Who is your wife?" Yu Jianli was just about to draw her sword when Lai Ran had already disappeared without a trace. Her face turned red as she gritted her teeth. "This pervert. Don't let me catch you next time." After saying this, the corner of her mouth couldn't help but curl into a smile, her eyes rippling with light. "Don't let me catch you next time. You rotten egg." Wuyong City. This was the imperial capital of the dynasty. It was the most prosperous city-state in the Haitian Empire. Flying above the imperial city was strictly prohibited. Lai Ran landed outside the city and walked towards the city gate with his hands clasped behind his back. Wuyong City's wall was tall and sturdy. Above the huge city gate lies two words Wuyong painted in silver and iron shade. The words engraved on the wall stood imposing. It was said that these two words were written by the ancient emperor of the Shang clan, who was said to be able to exterminate all demons. The city gate profiling was very strict. Those who entered the city lined up, waiting for the officers to inspect them. Lai Ran stood at the back of the line. It was winter, but he only wore a thin white robe, and his face was incomparably handsome. It was obvious that his background was extraordinary. He attracted the attention of the surrounding people. When it was his turn, the soldiers were stunned for a moment. Then, they exclaimed, "Young Master Lai, you're back." Lai Ran was stunned. "You know me?" The officer smiled fawningly. "You're handsome and elegant, like a firefly in the dark. How could I not recognize you?" Lai Ran was speechless. As the capital of Wuyong City, there were a lot of cultivators coming and going every day. There was no lack of ruthless murderers. The investigation of the city gate had become a high-risk occupation. If one was careless, one might lose one's life. For this reason, the officers and soldiers specially prepared a picture book with important people they could not afford to provoke. As for Lai Ran, he was on the top. He had a danger level of 5 stars. "Young Master Lai is here. Why aren't you here to welcome him?" The officer called out, and the others dropped their investigation work. They all ran over. They stood in front of Lai Ran and bowed. "Young Master Lai, welcome home." Their postures. "I thought I had come to a bathhouse." Lai Ran couldn't complain and walked into the city under everyone's respectful gazes. Standing on the street of Wuyong City, Lai Ran couldn't help but sigh. The city was prosperous. The road made of bluestone was very wide, and shops were lined on the streets. The palace cornices were filled with ancient charm. The street was crowded with people, and the piercing shouts of the peddlers could be heard. Looking afar, he could see the imperial palace as he climbed up the stairs. The palace in the center was located at the highest vantage point. From a distance, one could observe the resplendent of the palace. The surrounding palaces were situated in different elevations, depicting a scene of a moon surrounded by various arching stars. "This city is well structured." Lai Ran nodded. This time, he returned to Wuyong City for 2 matters. The first matter was to annul the engagement. The second matter was to deliver the spirit fruit. Lai Ran still valued this agreement. After that period of time, he and Zhao Qingzhi were genuine friends. Moreover, the other party was worried about his safety and insisted on handing over the spirit fruit to him. He attached great importance to this sentiment. However, other than knowing his friend's name was Sun Qingqing, he knew nothing else. "That girl didn't even give me her address. She said that when I arrive at Wuyong City, I naturally would see her. She's so mysterious." At that moment, a group of people ran past him. Lai Ran grabbed one of them. "Brother, do you know how to get to the Sun Manor?" "I don't know." The person shook his head and said, "The Lai family has already gone to the Zhao family to set up a challenge at the arena. Why are you still looking for Sun Manor? Don't you want to watch a lively scene?" The Lai family and the Zhao family's challenge. Lai Ran was stunned. That was a lot of information to digest. Zem nh1 if you find any errors, ads pop up. Ads redirect. Broken links. Non-standard content. Chapter 71 You're worthy to represent me. Chapter 71 You're worthy to represent me. Zhao Mansion. In the empty space in front of the door was a huge arena. The seats were occupied by a large crowd. They were all onlookers who had come to spectate the liveliness. Their scale was comparable to the Immortal Ascension Convention. Recently, the Zhao family's situation was unstable. Their old ancestor passed away. Zhao Qingzhi fell to the dust, and the Lai family broke off the engagement. One explosive piece of news after another pushed them to the forefront. Now that the Lai family had come to challenge them, it was obvious that they wanted to step on the Zhao family. Everyone knew that the annulment of the engagement was very likely. On the stage, 2 young men were fighting. The saberlight and swordlight matched each other. The 2 of them were both Foundation Establishment realm cultivators, so their fight was quite lively. However, the purple-clothed youth was clearly superior. He took advantage of the opponent's unpreparedness and hit him in the chest. The young man in black coughed a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He got smashed into the ground. The young man in purple was victorious. This person was Lai Shang, the eldest son of the Lai family, Lai Ran's cousin. Lai Shang laughed coldly. "That's it. How desperate the Zhao family must be to send this kind of trash to face off against me." The surrounding people were also discussing. "This is the 6th time he's won. Right. Lai Shang is truly invincible. No one in the Zhao family can stop him. He's a first-class talent and also an inner disciple of a sect. His future is limitless. Zhao family is really miserable." "That's right. They are about to become a third-rate family. Qingshen, quickly save him. Where are the pills? Bring them." The members of the Zhao family hurriedly surrounded Zhao Qingshen and carried him back to his residence. At the same time, they glared hatefully at Lai Shang. How outrageous. Zhao Nian's expression was ugly, and his brows were filled with black clouds. Last time, The Lai family's elder failed to annul the engagement and returned in defeat. Following that, Lai Sheng came to fight them in the challenge arena. To put it bluntly, they wanted to force the Zhou family to annul the marriage contract. Patriarch Qingshan wasn't a match. I'm afraid no one in the younger generation is his match, the third elder whispered. Zhou Nian clenched his fists. If we really are to be swept away by the other party alone, then the Zhou family's face would be obliterated. Setting the challenge arena was a rule set by Wuyong City's several families. Lai Sheng came to the Zhou family to set up a challenge. The young disciples of the Zhou family had to accept such challenges. The elders could not interfere. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Lai Sheng kept provoking. No way. No way. That's the level of the Zhou family. Could there be no one left? The children of the Zhou family were aggregated. Let me do it. You dog, you've gone too far. Although their cultivation was average, the young men were antagonized by Lai Sheng's provocation. One by one, they jumped onto the stage. However, in just a few moves, they were heavily injured. They spat blood and flew out. Blood had dyed the stage red. Without exception, they were all defeated. The difference in the realm was too great. Zhao Qingzhi looked at the seriously injured people and her eyes were filled with tears as her body trembled. Anger and powerlessness filled her heart. Lai Sheng laughed wildly. That's it, this was the strength of the Zhou family. You can't even win in a tug-of-war match. It's really funny. Among the crowd, Lai Ran was watching the show. If he didn't understand wrongly, this farce should be related to the annulment of the engagement. Is the Zhou family not willing to annul the engagement? Lai Ran shook his head. Although the Zhou family was rather miserable, what did it have to do with him? He was not interested in meddling in other people's business. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, a figure suddenly entered his eyes. He was stunned. What? Why is she here? Lai Sheng laughed wildly on stage. All of a sudden, the surroundings quietened down. A woman with a stunning expression slowly walked up to the stage. It's actually her. Zhao Qingzhi, didn't she lose all her cultivation? That's right. Her marriage is about to be annulled. Yet she still has the face to come out. Even the members of the Zhou family were anxious. With Zhao Qingzhi's current condition, wouldn't she be heading towards her death? Zhao Nian was nervous and was ready to make a move. This was his own daughter. Even if he broke the rules, he couldn't let anything happen to her. On the stage, Lai Sheng laughed coldly and said, I almost forgot that the Zhou family still has a genius like you. Why do you want to fight with me? Zhao Qingzhi gritted her teeth and said, Lai Sheng, what exactly do you want? Lai Sheng said with a sinister smile, I heard that you didn't agree to annul the engagement and shamelessly wanted to marry into my Lai family. I'm here today to see if your Zhou family is qualified enough. He looked around. It looks like tisk. Your family can't withstand even a single blow. Zhao Qingzhi clenched her fists. I've made it very clear. As long as Lai Ren comes to annul my engagement, I won't say anything. Why is your Lai family so aggressive? Lai Ran. A hint of coldness flashed in Lai Sheng's eyes. I'm Lai Ren's cousin. I can represent him. You have to annul this marriage even if you don't want to. A mere mortal wanted to lay hands on our Lai family. Zhao Qingzhi's face turned pale. You've gone too far. So what if I bully you? Lai Sheng said wildly. Either annul the engagement or accept the challenge. You can choose yourself. Zhao Qingzhi was extremely angry, hearing the cries of the people below the stage. Her heart ached. Could it be? Are you really going to split up with Lai Ran? Her heart was filled with reluctance. But how could she watch her family suffer? For a moment, she fell silent. Lai Sheng sneered. Looks like you've chosen to fight very well. I'll give you on your way. He brazenly reached out his hand to grab at her with a lightning pace. King Zhou Nian's expression became anxious. Just as he was about to fly to stop him, a sudden explosion rang in his ears. Lai Sheng coughed up blood as he was sent flying. A tall and elegant figure stood in front of Zhao Qingzhi, his voice cold and fierce. Who are you to represent me? Author notes. Before I know it, I have already written 120 words and it is time to test the results of this book. Actually, I have nothing to say. Even if there is nothing to say, friends who like this book will continue reading. The most important thing is to make sure that you are reading things you like. Thank you for your support these days. 3. This is the last free chapters. Part 4 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.